Let us be clear. If Donald Trump wins again, he will ban abortion nationwide. And though we are in Texas tonight, for anyone watching from another state, if you think you are protected from Trump abortion bans because you live in Michigan or Pennsylvania, Nevada, New York, or California, or any state where voters or legislators have protected reproductive freedom, please know no one is protected because a Donald Trump national ban will outlaw abortion in every single state. It's why this is an issue we've seen transcend party affiliation in election after election after election in red state after red state since the Dobbs decision. Earlier this week, we even heard from conservatives, something I never thought I'd hear her say, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney on the topic.
I think there are many of us around the country who have been pro-life, but who have watched what's going on in our states since the Dobbs decision and have watched state legislatures put in place laws that are resulting in women not getting the care they need. And so I think this is not an issue that we're seeing break down across party lines, right, but I think we're seeing people come together to say what has happened to women when women are facing situations where they can't get the care they need, where in places like Texas, for example, the Attorney General is talking about suing to get access to women's medical records. That's not sustainable for us as a country, and it has to change.
When your abortion policies and politics are so extreme that Liz Cheney is articulating exactly what is wrong with them, you have lost the hearts and minds of the entire ideological spectrum of American voters. Now, abortion rights have already played a large role in other elections since Dobbs. Its impact in November will be hugely consequential. It's still up to all of us. Politico reports this, though, quote, "For 2 years, Republicans have struggled to figure out how to message on abortion as waves of bans took effect across the country, helping Democrats win key gubernatorial, Senate, and legislative races. It is such a vulnerability for Republicans that Bill Miller, a GOP strategist in Texas, predicted if the election was entirely about abortion, Harris would win his state. It is a winning issue for her," he said. "If that were the only issue in the election would not be close." That's where we start the hour with some of our favorite experts and friends. Amanda Zarowski is back with us. She, of course, was the lead plaintiff in the lawsuit challenging the Texas abortion ban and serves as a reproductive rights advocate for the Harris campaign. Amanda and her husband will be joining Vice President Harris tonight at the rally. Also joining us, President of Reproductive Freedom for All, Mini Timuraju, is here and is attending the rally later as well. And former GOP Communications Director and co-founder and CEO of the Seneca Project, Tara Setmeyer, is here. Amanda, I even think that talking about abortion as though it's along the shelf with your, 5 other policy preferences is a misread of a woman's body. Anyone who's had a miscarriage and has suffered the grief can imagine what it would be like to have that grief compounded by an inability to access health care. And I wonder if you could just talk about what it's been like sharing your story and your story about losing Willow over the last year.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me back. It's great to see you. It's great to be here. But you're exactly right. Anyone who has experienced miscarriage, loss, infertility can tell you that experience in and of itself is horrific and traumatic enough. To then compound that with being denied access to basic health care. In my case, nearly dying and losing my fertility. Some of my reproductive organs are permanently compromised. It's nothing short of inhumane. It is cruel, it's barbaric, and most importantly, it's unnecessary. It's entirely preventable. But Donald Trump and his extremist allies continue to crusade down this path to restrict women's rights.
And they're not walking away from it, which is what's so amazing. I mean, this is his position today is to be proud of his appointees. His position today is, I promised it, and the women are going to be so happy when I'm back. This is what Vice President Harris is going to say tonight about that. The Attorney General of Texas is suing the United States government so that Texas prosecutors can get their hands on the private medical records of women who leave the state to get care. So see what is happening. Donald Trump will not let anyone see his medical records, but these guys want to get their hands on yours. Simply put, they're out of their minds. Talk about how out of the mainstream it is, even for Republicans, to have these views that are literally killing women. In Georgia, at least 2, and I know you fought for your own life.
Well, I think what we're seeing is a lot of really hard work coming to fruition and helping people understand that this is not pro-life. Nothing about this is pro-life. Nothing about these policies are pro-life. This is harming people. It's harming women. It's harming families. And I think the word abortion was stigmatized and politicized for so long, and we have slowly started chipping away at that stigma, and we're helping people see that abortion is simply health care. And we all deserve the right to have access to basic health care. And it has been a long road, but I think people are finally starting to realize that, and we're breaking down these barriers and helping people see that this is a basic human right that is being taken away from Americans in our country, and we have to fight back, and we're seeing people fight back.
Minnie, let me show you what the fight on the airwaves looks like. This is a new Harris ad called He Did It.
For 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it.
He did it.
It was pretty devastating.
He is bragging
about the rights that he stole from American women. And Trump is promising to do more in Project 2025.
They are restricting birth control,
tracking pregnant women, enforcing a nationwide abortion ban. The government should get out of my business.
Stay out of my business.
That's not the government's business.
In America, women make their own decisions.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
You changed the name of your organization to include the word freedom. It seems sort of prescient to where this argument would go in the minds of Americans. And I think this, we talk all the time, Minnie, about men understanding this issue more and more, in part thanks to Amanda's husband. But I wonder what you make of this final closing message and the vice president's trip today to Texas.
As you know, I'm a Texan. I'm from Houston. This is my hometown. I got to tell you, it's injecting a lot of hope and enthusiasm in folks down here that she's here bringing the fight to Texas. But more importantly, I want to go back to the quote you read from the GOP pollster here in Texas. If abortion was the only issue, we would be winning. Abortion and reproductive freedom are the top most salient persuasive issue. So we have just a very small gap to close to make that argument in the final days. I think Kamala Harris being in Texas is the beginning of her sweep of her closing argument. This fundamental freedom is emblematic of so many other freedoms. It's about abortion. But it's not just about abortion. It's about democracy. It's about decency. It's about humanity. It's about ethics. It's about character. So it's really powerful that she's going to be here tonight with Amanda and so many other storytellers. It really does make the case for who she is and what that clear contrast is and what she will do about the crisis that Donald Trump's abortion bans have created in our host state.
Tara, I want to ask you about something that I think has been a blind spot. In 2022, this issue and its resonance and its staying power were a total blind spot. Everyone was predicting a red wave. It was the first time voters had a chance to weigh in on anything since Dobbs, and it was at best a red tricklet or whatever you want to call it. I think men are don't know if it's their place to speak out about this and probably don't talk to their friends about it, and sure as hell wouldn't talk to a pollster about it. But here's John Legend on the Club Shay Shay podcast talking about it.
My wife, she was well past 15 weeks when she had to have an abortion. Mm-hmm. She was miscarrying and bleeding out, and all these things were happening.
Her life was in danger.
Her life was in danger. And for the government to say, oh, we need to evaluate this to make sure you're sufficiently dying before you can have an abortion. That's what they're saying in Texas and in Georgia and in all these states where they have Trump abortion bans. Overturning Roe versus Wade, Trump wants to claim credit for it, but at the same time be like, I just put it with the states. Oh, no, you put it with the states of Texas, states of Georgia, of Alabama, of, you know, you put it with these states. And by the way, that's where most black women live, in the South.
Southern states.
In the South. So that means the majority of black women are in regimes that would rather possibly let them die before giving them the life-saving treatment that they need.
Teresa Meyer, I couldn't have said it any better myself, and I cover it most days. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it's fantastic that men are beginning to speak out about this. I think that's something unique that we've seen this time around, how many husbands are speaking out on behalf of their wives. Kudos to Amanda's husband, to Ryan Hamilton, who's also in Texas and spoken out about his wife and what happened to their family. For us at the Seneca Project, you know, we're a bipartisan women-led organization, but we put out an ad on IVF from the dad's perspective, which no one else has done, because we felt it was important to include the voices of men, of those girl dads. And research has shown that that is the most persuadable relationship is between dads and daughters. So the fact that you have men who are natural protectors and want to speak out on behalf of their wives and their daughters, that's incredibly encouraging, and it's powerful, because then you're looking at this from a different perspective, because it doesn't only impact women. Yes, it impacts us directly. It's our lives that are at stake. But it's encouraging for men to speak. Now, Donald Trump and his toxic masculinity and this bro culture that he's running on is really a regressive view of gender dynamics and of the role of families and of men. And I think it's an insult to a lot of men as well to think that's how we view our women. It's insulting. And Donald Trump's not a protector. He's a predator. And women can see that. You know, Elizabeth Cady Stanton said the best protection for a woman is courage. And these women that are speaking out and telling their stories, like Amanda and others, are courageous to do that. And the husbands that are standing with them are also embracing and pushing that courage as well, because there is power and agency in our voices and our stories being told. And the more that people hear those stories and see what the real life consequences are of these Trump abortion bans and of the extremism that MAGA is trying to foist on women, I mean, this is all part of their authoritarian views. This is part of that fascism. This is not democratic. You know, women don't have the option to opt out, okay, of our democracy. We can't just walk away. It's life or death for us. And Ruth Ben-Ghiat, who is a friend of your show, she's on my advisory board at Seneca Project, she wrote a whole chapter in her book, Strongmen, about how women are viewed as enemies of the state under authoritarian regimes. So all these people who seem to think that Donald Trump doesn't mean what he says when he talks about the enemy from within and sticking the military on American citizens and all of these authoritarian fantasies that he has, guess what? Women are part of that enemy from within if they don't acquiesce to the subjugation that MAGA wants to put us in. And it starts with taking away our bodily autonomy and not trusting us to make decisions. It's all wrapped together. And I think Kamala Harris using this as her part of her final message in the final weeks of this election is a really powerful one, because women are being underestimated, and we are ultimately